everyone, I'm Luke and today we're diving down the Tube of Toons to review Disney Pixar's Luca. So Luca debuted on Friday the 18th of June on Disney Plus, so just over 2 weeks ago now. And it was included at no extra cost. You didn't get the chance to go see it at the cinema, but it was there on the streaming service, and it's the big Disney Pixar movie. It was intended for theatres, and so to get it included with your subscription was just a real treat. As some of you know, I was incredibly excited for this movie. I did a trailer breakdown a few weeks back, and so when this film came out, I set out and watched it straight away, and I've actually watched it a few times now. Sorry the review's coming out late, I had quite a lot on, but I finally put aside some time and let's talk about this film. And by the way, if you have not seen this film yet, maybe you aren't subscribed to Disney Plus, maybe you want to see whether or not it's worth the price of a subscription. Well, do not worry, because this is going to be a non-spoiler review to help you decide whether or not this film is for you. And before we get started, can I just ask you to hit that like button, because it really helps out the channel and lets us get seen by so many more people. So let's start off with a quick summary of the events of this film. Obviously not going into too many details, but what is this film about? So Luca is a young sea monster who's never been above the surface before. And one day he befriends Alberto, another sea monster. In fact, he lives above the surface on land, and he tells Luca all about the surface and the land monsters, also known as humans, and tells him all about Vespers. But Luca's family don't want him to go to the surface, and so in a bid to get away from his family, they both go to the human town, which is where they meet Julia, a young girl who tells them all about the Porto Rosso Cup, which is a triathlon of sorts involving swimming, cycling and eating pasta, and tells them that if they win, they would have enough money to buy a Vespa of their very own. This film is incredibly fun, and it just feels like the fun summer adventures of Luca, Alberto and Julia, and from there adventures ensue. In fact, this is a very lots of little adventures type of movie. There's a lot of fun things that goes on, and the story is really just a vehicle in which to deliver all these different little adventures. So what are my initial thoughts? I love this film. I thought it was just a delight. It's just an incredibly good time, and it just makes you wish you were running around the coast of Italy with your best friends. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. I loved the look of the film, I loved all the different characters, and I really appreciated just the simplicity of this movie. And do I think it's worth subscribing to Disney Plus for? Yes, I mean, you don't have to sign up for a full year. You can just buy a month subscription, which is around £8. Is it $10, I think? It certainly isn't bad. It's probably cheaper than buying a cinema ticket, and you can have more than one person watch it. You can watch it as many times as you want within that month. I certainly don't think it's a bad deal. I definitely recommend watching this film. My only real complaint is that I didn't get to see it on the big screen. I would have loved to have seen this film on the cinema because, like I said, it looks amazing. Just breaking it down into a little bit more specifics, let's talk about the characters. The characters in this film were just brilliant. The characters are really this movie's strength. They all feel real and incredibly relatable. If you don't relate to them, you probably knew people who were like them, and they definitely capture that feeling of being a child. You know, Luke is that kid who maybe isn't necessarily shy, but he certainly has doubts and things holding him back. Whereas Alberto is incredibly bold and very carefree. He was that kid who thought he knew everything, even if he doesn't necessarily. And Luca was the sort of kid that was just very willing to go along with that. And he was like, oh yeah, if Alberto says it, it must be true. But of course, that's not always the case. I definitely remember that. I definitely remember being a kid whose views and opinions were very much based on like what their friends were into. And you know, if your friend said something was cool, you were like, oh yeah, that definitely was cool. And you know, that's something that's very common with young children. I think this film captures that well. But of course, normally as you grow older, you do start to form your own opinions and you really latch onto what you enjoy the most, as opposed to just what your friends tell you should like. So yeah, in a lot of ways, I really enjoyed that aspect of the character. I also liked Julia. I liked how she was carefree, but in almost a different way to Alberto. I think the way they both influenced Luca was a really fun thing to see. Alberto's was very much, oh, I'm always right. And Julia's just like, you know, what do you think? And he isn't always right. And she shows him things, but I'm sure Julia tells Luca things as well, but she always seems to be able to back up whatever she's saying. I think the two of them were great contrast to one another, and they both really complemented Luca's character incredibly well. Also, lots of little character moments. I love Luca's parents, I love Julia's dad, Massimo, and the cat. I mentioned the cat in the trailer breakdown. I love the cat. So I mentioned earlier the simplicity of the film. Well, what do I mean? Well, this is quite a simple story. There's nothing super deep and complex. I know a lot of people usually expect that from a Pixar film. You know, the last movie, Soul, was certainly tackling with some deep and profound concepts. Well, that's not really the case here, and I've seen some people maybe have dismissed this film as being just for kids. I disagree. I certainly think kids are going to enjoy this film, and it is a lot more simpler. I do think there's enough there that anyone can latch on and enjoy this film. I think maybe you just don't go into the film with the expectations that this is going to be profound, thought-breaking cinema. And you know what? That's simply okay, because what this film is aiming for, it does very well. You know, there's a lot of things in this film, there's a lot of concepts, there's a lot of tropes that you have seen before. It's not groundbreaking, thought-provoking cinema, but it certainly isn't trying to be. What this film is aiming for, it achieves it incredibly well. And while this film does tackle a lot of familiar ground, some tropes that you've seen before, I'm always a believer of it's how well they do those tropes, and it's how they mix them together in a new way that helps the film feel fresh. And I certainly feel like this film does feel fresh. I don't think I've seen such a wholesome take on friendship in a very long while. I do think it manages to capture that feeling of being young and the feeling of being able to form such deep and powerful friendships in such a short amount of time. You know, it's very quick for a kid to make a best friend, and I think this film captures that beautifully. I don't think that's something that many adults really relate to. I think such a close, deep relationship as an adult would usually be a romantic one, but here they capture that joyous feeling of being a child and being amazed by everything. There is just simply a childlike wonder to this film, and I think it's absolutely fantastic to watch. Another thing I do want to talk about is the look of this film. I'm not going to go into it too deeply because I did mention it in my trailer breakdown, but now that I've seen the film, I can just confirm that everything I was saying about the look of the film is only more true in bucket loads. This film just has a really refreshing look to it. It's not that typical Pixar style. It's not aiming for that super photo realness of some of their last few films. It just feels like a children's storybook. And I will say, stick around through the credits. There's no like post-credit scene or anything, but they do have these storybook style paintings or drawings that sort of show you how the characters' lives continue on after the film's end, and they certainly are fun to watch and look at, and it really just helps cement the idea that yes, that's exactly what the film was going for. It was going for the children's book aesthetic, because you see the characters drawn exactly in that aesthetic, just now in 2D instead of 3D, and they nailed it in the 3D CGI world of this movie. It is a sight to behold. There are also little segments, you do see clips of them in the trailer, of Luca sort of daydreaming, and he goes off into this own little world, and well, for the most part that does look very similar to the world of the film. In fact, there are certain times where you can't tell he's daydreaming until you can. Well, they do a certain thing where the world looks slightly different. The world looks even slightly more cartoony. The clouds become just like perfectly round orbs, but there are some sequences, ones that are very more clearly in his mind, and they're even more abstract. Well, maybe not abstract, even more iconic and cartoony in their look. And again, it's just another look to this film that helps this film feel incredibly new and refreshing to look at. I just loved the look of this film. Overall, I love this film. Like I said, I highly recommend watching this film. I think it's definitely worth the price of at least 1 month subscription. Like I said, it's just a lot of fun. Really is a real delight to watch. And stop watching the video, go watch the movie. It's great. It's tubular, you'll love it. I did see a bit of backlash at this film due to the characters not being gay, with people maybe labelling it as queer baiting, although I will say, like I discussed in my trailer breakdown, I don't think Disney ever actually said these characters are going to be gay. I think a lot of people made some assumptions based on the synopsis that was revealed, maybe the way the first teaser trailer was edited, but I know a lot of people made assumptions based off the film's setting, in that it was the same setting as the movie Call Me By Your Name. A lot of people were jumping to conclusions being that it was released in June, which is also Pride Month. But you know, I don't think any of these things are really concrete evidence that was saying, hey, these characters are going to be gay. The director very clearly stated before this film came out, this is a film about friendship, and that is what this film was. So I hate to see people being disappointed that they aren't getting representation, and I do think representation is something that we need going forward, but this film never claimed to have it in it, and I do think a lot of people were jumping to conclusions based on really a whole lot of nothing. June is summer movie season. This film is set on the Italian coast. That's not an exclusively gay setting. I'm sorry if you've only ever seen Call Me By Your Name, but other films can be set there and they don't have to be LGBTQ. I mean, I'm with you, I agree, we need more representation. And while it would have been great if this film included it, I certainly don't think we should be bashing this film for not including it. If we are, we should be bashing every other single Pixar movie or every other movie that's ever made that doesn't include representation. I just think it's a very unfair thing to hold over this movie because the film never claimed to be so. Disney was not advertising an exclusively gay moment like they have in previous films. And so I will say, I think that's just very unfair criticism. And if you haven't watched the film yet and you were maybe hoping for it in this film, I do want to just like quench those hopes here, because I don't want you to go into this film and be disappointed that it's not there, because like I said, it's not there. And I think that's pretty much everything. If you've not done so yet, please can you give this video a like. It really helps out the channel and lets it get seen by so many more people. And if you've not done so yet, why don't you hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell to be notified the next time we dive down the Tube of Tunes. Sorry this video is so late, but speaking of late videos, I do also have my review for Netflix's Wish Dragon, when that's going to be coming out very shortly. And up next, I actually have my trailer reaction to the new Scooby-Doo and Courage the Cowardly Dog crossover movie. That trailer did drop earlier this week, and I filmed the reaction the day the trailer came out, but I've just had a bit of a backlog trying to get things out, and I really needed to get this video out. So yeah, look out for those videos coming up shortly. And of course, we are now in the month of July, and you know what that means? It's Space Jam month. So we are going to be gearing up towards Space Jam 2, A New Legacy. I'm very excited. I hope you're very excited. We can all be excited together, so let's get ready, guys. Also, let me know, do you think this video looks any better? This is actually the first video shot on my new camera. Well, I say new camera, I've got a new phone. So let me know if you think this film looks any better. Have you seen Luca yet? What did you think of it? Let me know what you thought down below. I'd love to talk to some of you about it. Alright everyone, thanks for watching. Cheers. Thanks for watching Tube of Tunes. If you want more from the channel, hit subscribe. If you want to keep up to date with what's going on, follow us on our socials. Hope you liked it. Cheers.